Well, welcome, Maestro. We've got really three completely different periods of music we're going to introduce to the orchestra next week. Um, Copeland from the 20th century, Ravel from the 19th, kind of 20th century, and Mozart from the 18th century. And what a great mixture.
I think the orchestra is going to teach me how to conduct it. I expect actually that they know it better than I do, and I come with a fresh, almost as Yankee approach as Copeland's
Is
to the
Copeland
Rodeo.
performed in Europe?
Of course, yeah. Copeland is maybe one of the most well-known American composers in Europe. I mean, with Bernstein and Copeland are the two that are still performed the most. Though this piece is not it's not as well known, which I think is I think it's a fabulous piece. But let me first talk about the program. What seems to be contrast is that actually not so much of a contrast. I think the texture, the architectural concept, and the way those three composers approach music is very, very similar. Mozart, Copeland, and Ravel, especially Ravel and Mozart, I think are like really brothers in mind. You know, it's really quite.
Really?
Yeah, because this skill of very different from Mahler or Tchaikovsky, where your personal fate really influences the music. These composers, all these three composers, took always a distance, to the music as a craft and as an art, not to get involved too directly with your personal feelings. That doesn't mean that this music has not a lot of emotional content, but it's not about your personal feeling. Art is something more distant from your own personal fate, and other composers are the complete opposite. So these three have this in common. They have this enormous craftsmanship in common, which is also true for Copeland, I think, in the same as Ravel. And also these all three pieces have very clear, distinct colors. It's not a blend of colors. It's clean and clear colored orchestration. So they have this all in common. Copeland, this dance episodes it's really a wonderful, playful piece. Also, the playfulness of all these pieces is something they have in common.
And it's a ballet, of course.
And it's a ballet, and it has a lot of humor. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
fantastic to play. It's jazzy at points, very jazzy, and that refers then that trumpet solo from Rodeo refers, of course, to the Ravel Concerto, which is very much Gershwin, who Ravel really admired a lot, and Gershwin admired Ravel. So they have this in common.
It's quintessential 20th century, first part of the 20th century. If you took Ravel off, it could be Gershwin in a moment,
It could be.
but it's more sophisticated.
The second movement is too French
Yeah.
to be Gershwin. I mean, this French melancholy is something that you can only experience in France. And I mean, it's one of the most gorgeous pages, I think, in all piano literature. This meditation at the end of the beginning of the first movement. Mozart's Jupiter, his last symphony, is maybe one of the most important symphonic pieces ever written, with no doubt. Therefore, it deserves to be at the end of the program. I never see a Jupiter in a first half. It's just killing everything that follows, because it's a perfect piece. There's not a single note that has to be replaced, removed, or changed. And of course, the last movement, the finale, is such a perfect fugue. I mean, it's very complex, and yet, again, extremely playful at the end. But a perfect piece that really prepares where the 20th century would go in terms of composition. I think, again, here we see that Mozart was not just a classic composer, but he influenced indirectly many composers in the 20th century, like Copeland, like Stravinsky, and like Ravel, to continue with this spirit of composition. which is very different from the ones I mentioned before.
Wasn't too big of a jump from Jupiter to Beethoven 1, or was it?
Well, Jupiter is a different. Jupiter is the last piece of a great composer. Beethoven 1 is the first piece of a great composer. You know, it is. Beethoven 1 is the start of a new journey. Jupiter is the peak of a journey. We have no idea what symphony number 42, 43, 45, or 50 would have been if Mozart had lived another 10 years. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I mean, it would be amazing, of course, but he put everything in this symphony that he know about composition. And the Jupiter title makes a lot of sense if you hear the first. You know, it's like these lightning strikes in the introduction, which has no slow introduction, so it starts right away with tempo, which is also quite unusual. No, I mean, I recorded the last three symphonies, and I still think that Mozart still has not the place in repertoire as he should have nowadays. Because his symphonic composition, as much as it hasn't directly influenced the people who followed, not as much as Beethoven, has influenced people composed in the 20th century amazingly.
It's going to be an exciting concert. Looking forward to it. Wonderful program. Hope everyone will come to it.
Thank you very much.